Hi, everyone. Welcome. We'll give it a couple minutes to let people filter on in.
Hello from Seattle.
Hello.
Nice.
Let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to see in the chat where
From
folks are. From
Brazil.
Brazil. Nice. Tuning in from
Congratulations,
Burbank.
Robin.
Yes, congrats.
Love it. Vancouver,
Greetings from
BC.
Vancouver. Nice.
I'm joining from Los Angeles.
Samesies,
Just
North Hollywood.
Berlin.
And I'm joining from the East Coast in Montreal. Hey, Zerlinda from LA. Queens, New York. Yes. I used to live in New York, so always love to see people from New York personally.
You feel like a New Yorker, Sarah.
Do I?
You
I don't know.
do.
I don't know if that is a compliment or not.
I meant it complimentary.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh, yes. Is anyone in this chat going to Lightbox Expo? Because we will all be there. Well,
I'm a
Sam,
maybe.
maybe. Yeah, see you there.
All right.
Okay, well, we can go ahead and get started here. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. Welcome to BRIC's Pre-Apprenticeship Speaker Series, where we aim to give you an inside look at the various exciting careers that exist across entertainment, gaming, media, and tech. And we're here with industry pros to help give you that inside look. But first, I'm Sarah. I'm BRIC's Director of Communications and your moderator for this series. And today's session is all about talent management and representation in the animation industry. We've invited two very special talent managers today. Allison Mann, if you can wait, who is a talent manager and the president of Fourth Wall Animation, and also the co-founder of the BRIC Foundation. And also Sam Goff, who is another talent manager from Fourth Wall Animation, an educator, and an animation activist. And together, Allison and Sam today will demystify the role of talent managers and give you guys a clearer picture of how strong representation can open doors, protect creators, and help build sustainable long-term careers for creatives. So as always, we'll reserve the last 15 minutes of the session to host a live Q&A. So make sure to use that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions you might have for Sam or Allison along the way. And with that, I'll turn over the presentation to Sam.
Amazing. Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Just drop it
Great,
in the
Sam.
chat.
Great.
Um, yeah, so Allison and I work together at Fourth Wall Management as managers, and this is going to be us kind of explaining what representation is, what management is, and how to best prepare yourself to make the most out of that relationship. A little bit about Fourth Wall. We are a small management firm. There are only, what, 12 of us total in the company. And there are six different divisions, only one of which is the animation division. The others are like live action, comedy, performance, things like that. Um, Allison and I hold down the animation division. And we represent people like writers, directors, storyboard artists, visual development artists, creators, people who want to build a career and be in leadership and be a creator. And I guess we kind of already did our intros. Allison, do you want to say anything else about who you are?
I'll just talk a little bit about my background just to, I think we always talk about like how do you get there and like what's your zig and zag. And I think it's always important to lay that foundation a little bit because I don't think anything is always a straight like shot to whatever your end goal. And sometimes you think you have an end goal and it like you kind of yes and your way through your career and it becomes something else, which is how I landed as being a rep. So I came up from being an artist. I've been drawing and painting since I was 7. I actually wanted to be a 2D animator. And I ended up going to an art high school. I still wanted to be in animation around this time. And then in my senior year of school, when I was trying to figure out colleges, my teacher at the time, who knew nothing about animation, and this was in the 90s when computers weren't the thing it was today, she told me that 2D animation was dead and to pick a different career. And she couldn't tell me all the different things besides CG animation was the direction, and that was not the direction I wanted to go. I'm a very tactile person. I like to paint. I like pencil. I just like those things. And I like also my dad was really into computers and I wanted to do the complete opposite of whatever he was into. So I ended up going to junior college, continued taking painting classes, and then I ended up transferring to Columbia College in Chicago. And I majored in media management, and I transferred there because I could still take painting classes as well. And so it was kind of like business of the arts. And then I ended up interning at Nickelodeon, but in finance, Nickelodeon Animation Studio in Burbank, and then also a casting company. And I learned quickly I didn't really want to do casting, but I really did not want to do finance, but I did like be like, okay, animation's where I want to be. And so when I graduated from school, I got offered 2 jobs at Nickelodeon, one being a PA on Go Diego Go, and the other one was working in special events. And the special events one was kind of like a page job. And I would be the one getting all the portfolios because it was not digital at the time. I started on shows like SpongeBob, Avatar, The Last Airbender. So like all the OGs. So everything was hard copy portfolios, and I would divide those up and give them out to the production. So I went that direction. And then I ended up building up my own recruiting department. I took over the internship program at Nickelodeon and MTV. And then from there, I just continued growing my career. I got recruited to Disney feature animation, where I worked on Princess and the Frog and Wreck-It Ralph, Big Hero 6, Frozen, a bunch of Disney tunes like Planes and Tinkerbell, and was a creative recruiter there. And then I got recruited into games, then Paramount Animation and Illumination. And then my last corporate job was VP of Creative Strategy, where my job was to read scripts and then figure out the visual language. So it was a little bit more in development at that point. And I worked on projects like K-pop Demon Hunters, Goat, Spider-Verse, Mitchell's versus the Machines. And then my job ended right around COVID, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And our boss, John Huddle, reached out and said, "Hey, what do you think? Come be about being a rep." And I really didn't know what it was, and we'll explain what it is later. But in my brain, it combined all the things I have done over the last 20 years. And my favorite thing, which was always supporting the humans, the creatives within the companies. While I did build teams a lot in all these different studios I worked at, my favorite part was always career coaching and getting people to where they wanted to be, and just being kind of the super connector amongst the industry. So it kind of just led me into this role, which was, like I said, all the things that I loved about my career up until this point. So that's a little bit about me and how I got to this role. And we'll dive in after Sam kind of gives her brief into what the job actually entails.
Absolutely. My background is very similar to Allison's, where I too started out as an artist. I went to a magnet high school where I was studying CG animation, and I wanted to be a surfacing artist specifically. So I went to Loyola Marymount University and eventually graduated with a degree in animation. But I graduated into the housing recession, and so there was no work to be found doing anything anywhere. And so I pivoted and I moved to Japan for a couple of years because my love of anime or my love of animation and wanting to work in the animation industry was fueled by a love of anime. And so I moved to Japan for a couple of years where I was teaching English, which was a really formative time in my year or in my life. I mean, obviously, it was fun and exciting to be in another country, especially a country like Japan. But it also really just taught me a lot of skills that I use to this day. So once the economy recovered, I started to see my cohort start to get jobs in the industry. That was my signal to come back. I eventually got my foot in the door working as a PA at DreamWorks TV. And then I ended up working at DreamWorks for about 5 years, PAing and then coordinating. I worked on a bunch of different shows there, like Spirit, Fast and the Furious, Kung Fu Panda. The last project I was on at DreamWorks was The Bad Guys 1. And then I left there to become a recruiter at Netflix, which is not something that I thought I was going to be doing because the entire time I was working in production at DreamWorks, I was working on my craft and networking and like pushing to become an artist. And it got to the point where the artists who do the job that I wanted to do were like, yeah, you're ready. Like this portfolio is good. You just need the job now. But recruiters, hiring managers didn't see me in that same way. And so I started putting my application out elsewhere. And that's how I got the call from Netflix. But then they said, how about this recruiting job? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Um, but I took the leap of faith because the job description just sounded like a bullseye for me. And it was. I'm really glad that I did that. I've been really happy in my career ever since. So I worked for 2 years at Netflix, working in their early career recruiting division. So I was running the trainee program. I also created a mentorship program there. And then in the like economy downturn, the post-COVID um, streaming bubble burst and they closed down my division, unfortunately. And so I was um, laid off. And then I was volunteering for BRIC Foundation, and Allison found out I was laid off and just DM'd me and was like, "We need to talk." And a few short weeks later, here I was at Fourth Wall learning everything I could from Allison and just being a sponge. And then I also still teach. I got into adjunct professoring at both Cal State Long Beach and my alma mater, Loyola Marymount University, where I teach animation courses. All right, so real quick, think to yourself, what do you know about representation? And I would invite everyone in the chat to answer that first question. What are the types of representation?
You know, when
If you think you know,
when
just
I
put it
didn't
in the.
realize or didn't know a lot about it, Sam, I always just pictured movies like Jerry Maguire or with Tom Cruise and also Entourage. That's all I thought about. So when
Mhm.
Huddle approached me, I was like, that's not my vibe. I'm not that person.
I
That's all I
always
knew.
think of Princess Caroline from BoJack Horseman. Like
Mm.
I am the Princess Caroline to multiple BoJacks. Oh, well, actually none of my clients are like BoJack, but that's the pop culture reference that I think of. And honestly, I kind of do have Princess Caroline vibes. Anyway, Romney got it correct. Entertainment lawyers, agents, and managers. These are the three different types of reps, kind of going from smallest scope of work to largest. So if we break those down, first you have an entertainment lawyer. That is a person that's coming on just to help when you have a contract that needs to be redlined. Redlined meaning that you're negotiating different terms within that contract. So like if you just get hired to be a PA, you're gonna sign a contract to say like, yes, I'm gonna do this job, but there's no like negotiating what it means to be a PA. But if you're being brought on as the director of a film that you created, there's a lot more variables that get changed. And it's really important to have a lawyer who can represent you in that thing. So that is what an entertainment lawyer will do. Then going to a broader scope of work, you have an agent. So an agent is the person that's like helping you procure those contracts. It's like a kind of transactional um relationship where you're like, hey, I need a job, and they're like, cool, let's find you one. They're going to be putting you forward using their connections in the industry to try and get you that gig. And then once you get the gig, they take a percentage. Industry standard is 10% of your paycheck as like as their compensation for helping you procure that job. And then you have what Allison and I do as managers. And we do the same thing as agents to the extent of that we're helping you find opportunities for jobs. But really our bread and potatoes, meat and potatoes, whatever that line is your overall career management. So we are looking big picture. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What are the steps to get you there? How can we support you in every little move? So it's not just about getting you the next job like it is for an agent, and it's not just about reviewing a contract like it is for an entertainment lawyer. It's big picture, everything. How can we support your career and everything that you want to accomplish within that? So let's answer a couple of frequently asked questions that I get a lot when I talk about this. First thing, are reps common in animation? And no, but becoming that so. Uh, representation, agents and managers, lawyers, this is extremely common. It is actually standard with our live action counterparts. In the animation world, it is a growing market. And so it's not the most prevalent thing, but it is an important thing, and people are starting to adopt this practice more and more. So then, who needs representation? Um, any kind of creator can have representation, but I like to say that if you're a person that's wanting to go from gig to gig to gig and be a journeyman artist, then you can rely on an agent to help you get those jobs. Because we all know finding a job is almost a job in and of itself. And then if you're somebody who wants to get into leadership positions, you want to pitch your own ideas, you want to direct, then that's when it makes sense for you to get a manager. But neither of these are going to be like straight out of college. You're super green. You don't have any experience. At that point, a manager might not, or a rep might not be the most helpful for you because you don't have um, any like experience yet. But once you are like early in your career, you've had like one or two jobs, and you're like, okay, now I'm starting to think of like what goes next. Like you've put your roots down, and now you're thinking of how you're going to flourish. That's when the time comes to start seeking representation. Oh, I answered my next question for you. But yes, so when you're ready to expand, when you're ready to start seeking higher positions, that's when you can start looking for a rep. You, however, do not have to have representation in this industry to like get by. You can completely do these things by yourself. We are additive in that we help and that we have broader networks and connections. We also have a certain amount of clout and uh, a reputation, a positive reputation. And so we're additive in that way. but not necessary. The only asterisk to that is that there are a lot of studios that will not allow you to pitch unless you are reaching out to them via representation. So if you're someone who wants to write and pitch, and try to like create your own thing, your own movie, your own show, in that case, you do actually need to have representation. But otherwise, you can get by without it. But we help, we reduce the hustle. So when you're picking the right rep, it's kind of like going on a first date. You have to make sure that you guys pass the vibe check for one another. So you're meeting this rep and you're saying, like, what's your working style? Does that match my working style? Who are your connections? Like, what is your area of focus and expertise? And is that in line with what I'm trying to do? Like, if I want to be an indie creator, but you only work with the major studios, then maybe we're not a good fit, you know? So you want to make sure that they have the right connections for you. And then their communication style. Are you able to have fruitful and flourishing conversations with one another? Because if any of those things aren't working out, then this relationship isn't doing what it should to help and support you. You never want to feel like you're fighting with or begging for attention from your rep. Your rep should be in your pocket, always there to help and support you. And so it's important that you date around and you find the right match. I listed here some of the major agencies and management firms. I think our biggest competitor in the animation management would be Gotham Group because they are the only other one that has a dedicated animation division, like we do. But all of these will have reps that work with animation people. And some of these are agents and some of these are managers. So you would have to go and see which is which because you can't have both. But the last thing that I will say before I pass it on to Allison is that you should just have the conversation. Always take the meeting. It never hurts to talk. It never hurts to ask questions. Um, and that will help you in your quest of finding the right fit for you. All right, Allison, take it away.
All right. So part of like when we're looking for clients, part of it is like we're not magicians. We can't, we can't change the industry and what's going on in the industry. We can't force someone to hire you or buy what you're trying to sell. We can just get you as close to those equators as possible. If you're the CEO of your company, we're your advisors. But we can't work with somebody who is unclear about what their goals are or what direction they want to head. We need something to kind of go off of in some way, shape, and form. So I think doing some personal, like soul searching and kind of brand development before you get to looking for a manager or rep is going to be important. Next slide. So think about like your own narrative. What defines you and your goals? Who you are, what do you want, where are you going? And it doesn't need to be like all set in stone, but just having some North Star is going to be important. So careers you want to emulate, different worlds you want to explore, dream projects, genres, like just having some anchors in there will be really important. Next slide. So something that I have, and I think Sam does this as well, but there's one, it's one thing to have a resume and a bio, but it's another thing to have a bio that really reflects the job that you want, not the job that you have. So practice writing a bio that not only, I guess in a way regurgitates your resume, but also defines who you are in the area of creative that you want to kind of aim for. So what is your point of view on a creative standpoint? What inspires you and why? What is your power of perspective? Where do you come from? Like, why is, what kind of stories do you want to tell, and why are those important to you? I always say, when I used to do a lot of interviewing as a recruiter, I always ask somebody, I ask people to tell me, what is something only your friends know about you? So I think it's just like, what is that thing that, again, makes you unique, and stand out amongst the crowd? Next slide. So your energy matters, like, not only when working with us, but when you think of your career in general, and what you want to, and how you navigate through this industry. So negativity will work against you. You can go to that next slide. So find ways to keep your energy positive, remove any roadblocks you might have created. And something that I'll say about that is, like, for a long time, for example, for myself, I had this chip on my shoulder when I was working at Disney Interactive. And also just up until that point, I would say, where I always was comparing myself to others. Why is other people getting promoted over me? I'm working really hard. Like my coworkers, like the ones I'm supporting, really love me. And I was always this, like, kind of bitter and why not me? And then the moment that I kind of removed myself from the equation and I kind of just aimed for the team, how can I be the best teammate versus me, my own ego, my own id, was the moment that I started growing as a leader in the industry. So it took kind of like the negativity, that, like, the energy of the why not of me, that kind of negative rhetoric that was in my head, and I just removed that, and then my career started blossoming. So I think just remember, like, glass half full versus empty, and, like, what is those silver linings that you can lean on? Next slide. So put it out into the universe. For me, I believe in manifestation. And part of manifestation is, at the end of the day, people don't know what they don't know. Like, as much as we want people to be mind readers, they're just not. So that is why having very specific goals in mind and things that you want to do is really important. Also, it holds you accountable. So if you say you have a goal of X, and you say it out loud, and you say it to your friends or colleagues, you're more likely to follow through than if it just stays in here. And oftentimes saying it out loud is actually quite scary, because, again, you're going to be held accountable. If you said, this is my goal, then you have to figure out how to achieve that goal. But if you don't say it out loud, and you just let that narrative sit in your head, it just will kind of take up space there as well. So getting it out into the world, again, you have this one shot, so just make the most of it. Next slide. Focus on what you want. So believe in yourself, your goals, your intention. Like I said, you have this one shot. So just focus on the things that inspire you, that fill your bucket, and aim for those aspects. Next slide. Focus on how you feel. While it's important to know what you want, it's also important to be in tune with how you feel. I think, like I mentioned earlier, like, fear of failure is a real thing. Imposter syndrome is a real thing. But if you can lead with curiosity and a kind of a growth mindset, I feel like you will beat the odds on having your goals achieved to those that don't. So I know it's scary. I know that it's intimidating, but one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. Like, try to ask those questions about yourself. If there's a career that you want to emulate, like, connect with that artist that could inspire you, that's doing the job that you want, ask the questions, build the network. A lot of what we do in this industry is collaboration and networking. And it's not about just what you know, but who you know. And so if you know who you are and you are able to connect with the people that are doing the thing, then, you know, more things will come to your table. Have realistic expectations and let go of perfection and control. So there's time where you know, you can't, not everything that comes your way or everything that comes to you or how the world's spinning or the industry, what's happening in the industry right now, you can't control. The only thing you can control is how you navigate it. And you have a lot of agency. So it's about like how you decide to maneuver. So if you're caught in like a deer in headline and you can't move around, then that will limit your options. But if you stay focused and focus on that end result and you kind of still build kind of your pillars and avoid or figure out how to maneuver those obstacles, I think that you'll have a better outcome. Next slide. Be patient. Again, industry, whether it's the industry making changes, whether it's your expectations of yourself. So for me, like I wanted to climb the corporate ladder really fast, and it didn't happen on my time frame. So if your goal is to sell a show and it takes you a decade, it takes you a decade. If you know, sometimes it will happen right away, but most times it takes a long time. I think of shows like Ted Lasso that took over a decade to make. I worked on the movie Tangled that was in development purgatory for over a decade. So things can take a long time, but it's the perseverance and being patient that will get you to be able to achieve those goals. I full-heartedly believe that anything is possible. Manifest by visualizing these things becoming part of your life. So, you know, I believe in affirmations, manifestation, write them down, create a vision board, whatever you need to do, but just have that as something that you can go back and look at and say, oh yeah, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I'm building towards something. So I assume we're all visual humans. So like figure out a way to have those all things written down. I know people that write in a journal every single day, whether it's things that happen or things that like they want to see happen the next day, and they write those specific goals down. When I worked at Zynga, every week we had to write down 3 goals that we wanted to achieve in that week. And then we would be able to, you know, and then we had to report back if we achieved them. And that built up on my resume too. So having something to visualize is important. Next slide. Be intentional. So see the big picture. It's okay to pivot, as you heard from both Sam and my career. Like we zigzag to where we're at, and I assume neither of us are done learning or yes-anding our way through our career. So don't get stuck on one way to accomplish. Think of all different avenues. I think the moment that you stop thinking about how to move the ball forward is when we fail. So just follow your instincts, listen to what the universe is saying, like talk to people, like it's all different puzzle pieces on how like you accomplish, whether it's getting your project made, the job that you want, or just like something that you want to do within a day itself. So just be intentional on what that looks like. Next slide.
I think this pops back over to me. So, we've talked about what a manager is and does. We've talked about how you can find the right one for you and differentiate between them. And we've also talked about how you can prepare yourself and be ready for one. So now let's say that you're in the relationship with your manager. How do you get the most out of that relationship? first things first is that you have to be a team player. Like Allison said before, we are not magicians. We can't actually make anyone hire you, but we can help get you closer to that point. So it's important for you to also be pulling on your network, your connections, and working on your uh general skills, your ability to network. So we send you out on a meeting and saying, hey, you need to meet this this recruiter because they might have an opportunity opening in a month, and we want to make sure that they, know you, like you have a good rapport. So then you have to show up and you have to knock that general out of the park. So it's a partnership, working together in the furtherance of your career. It's not a situation where you sign with us, you tell us what your goals are, and then you sit back and kick your feet up while we make those things happen. And so you have to be a go-getter. You have to have the initiative to continue to push and to continue to work, to hold us accountable as well as holding yourself accountable. So if I give you an assignment and I say, hey, you need to do A, B, and C to your website in order for me to successfully put you forward for opportunities, then you've got to go and do that. I shouldn't have to chase you down 6 months later, a year later, and be like, yo, where's that website update? Like, we're missing out on opportunities. Allison and I don't chase. We don't have the time and the bandwidth to chase. And so you have to be willing to put in the work. You're only going to get out of the relationship what you're willing to put into it. And then you need to be goal oriented. You need to know what it is that you're working towards. What do you want? Otherwise, we're kind of just spinning our wheels and not going anywhere. We need a loose roadmap of where it is that we're trying to go. Whenever I sign a new client, I have them, and Allison does this too, but we have them give us their goals in the short, medium, and long term. So short being, what do you want to accomplish in the next couple of weeks? Medium being, what do you want to accomplish in the next couple of months? And then long term being, what do you want to accomplish in the next couple of years? And the answers to those questions is what dictates our roadmap, is what tells us how we are going to create a plan for you to reach those goals. But we can't do that. We don't know what steps to take if we don't know what your goals are, because you don't know what your goals are. And then you really need to ask yourself, are you ready to take the next step? Are you ready to like step into that leadership position? Because if you're someone who wants to be a journeyman artist going from gig to gig, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's a relationship that you'll have with an agent. They're going to be the person that's going to help you make the most out of your career in that way. But if you're looking to create, pitch, be in a leadership position, direct, then that's when you're ready for a manager. And that's when it makes sense for you to engage with a manager. When you're like, I have all of this experience and I'm ready to kind of take the next step in my career. And that is all that we have for you all today. Thank you so much for your time. We are now ready for questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sam and Allison. Great presentation. We've gotten a few questions along the way. So let's go ahead and answer those together. The first one we received is from Robin, who asks, how can we research which studios require reps for pitching? Is this publicly available information?
All
I
studios
think all studios, yeah.
require.
All right.
The only difference is if you're already in a studio, say you're working for Nickelodeon, you already have like a direct access to the, your development colleagues there. So you may not need a rep in that specific instance, but everybody else. And I think that there was a question in there about, can we have both a manager and an agent? So there are different like variations to that. So like if you are at a studio and you have a lawyer and you sell a property, that's and you're at Nickelodeon, you pitch and development wants it, and you have a lawyer, that's all you need. You don't need a manager and an agent. You can have a lawyer, manager, and an agent, but that's 10%, 10%, 5%. You can have a manager and an agent, and you can have a manager and a lawyer, and you can just have just singles of all one of those two. You can have just a lawyer, just a manager, and just an agent. It just depends where you're at in your career and what your needs are, and how much money you're willing to spend.
Great. All right. We have Lisbeth who asked, recently I'm starting to get into film and animation. Do I have to start looking for representation? And to get representation, do I need to be part of a union?
So no, you don't need to be part of a union in order to get representation. Those are two completely separate things. Um, but the first part of the question of like, you're just getting started and do you need to start looking for a rep? I would say no. Most times, with a few, there are a few exceptions when someone has just reached out to me cold and we ended up working together. But more often than not, either I find, like I scout a person that I want to rep, whether that's going to industry events like Lightbox, walking Artist Alley at Comic-Con, things like that. Um, or it's from word of mouth. It's a recommendation. Somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, you should meet with this person. I think that they're ready for a rep." And so when you're just getting started out, I wouldn't worry about getting an agent or a manager. I would just focus on like getting a strong foothold in your career, and then the representation will come.
Perfect. We have Robin who asks, if I'm working at Studio A and my dream studio is Studio B, is it still appropriate to manifest my goal and talk about my dream with a different studio while working someplace else? Allison or Sam, what do you think about that?
I think like our whole industry is networking. So if your goal, well, so just speaking of my own career, so I had two major studios I've always wanted to work at since I was little: Nickelodeon and the Walt Disney Animation Studio. Those were my two white whales. Is that how you say them? Yeah. So those are the things that I was wanting to achieve in my career. And so while I was at Nickelodeon, like I networked with people from Disney, and eventually I got recruited to go over to Disney. Like, I think our industry is small, and you don't want to like go in and tell your current employer, like, my long-term goal is not to be with you. That's not what you want to do. But if you like internalize, if that is something you want to do, then you just network with the people at that studio and make your way. But you don't share it with your manager, because at the studio that you're at, they want to hear this is the place you want to retire. They want their, just like in an interview, like they just want their bucket filled. They want to know that it's the one and only. It's just like Sam said, it's like dating. Like if you're already like moving on to the next person, that person that you're dating isn't going to feel too good about it. So it's kind of the same idea. So your current manager won't necessarily help you move on, but maybe, within your network and talking to people, that you can figure out how to navigate that on your own. Sam, what do you think?
I was gonna say the same thing. It's okay to talk about it because we all have goals, and in the animation industry, most people don't just work for one studio their entire career. You bounce around to a bunch of different studios. But you have to be strategic and careful of who you're speaking to, because if you're going up to your boss and telling them about how much you want to go work for Studio B, then they're gonna be like, well, then why do I have you here? Why would I want to renew your contract when you don't even want to be here? You've got one foot out the door. So just being strategic with who you're saying that to, but it's okay to say it.
Great. All right. We have Derek who asked, what is the process to obtain a manager? Sam, do you have any tips for how to I guess maybe locate one, maybe identify?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that more often than not, a manager is going to find you. And so in that case, it's really about making sure that you have a good presence and that you're approachable. So are you attending networking events? Are you attending industry events? Do you have a good social media presence? And by good social media presence, I mean it is representative of you and who you are, what you do, not that you're an influencer with a million followers. You could have one follower and it's your mom, and I wouldn't care as long as I can look at your Instagram and get an idea of who you are as a creator. Um, and then do you have a strong like portfolio website put together? So you kind of need to have all of those outward facing elements there so that somebody can find you. Um, but just like with working or finding work, it's almost more important to network than it is to have those pieces in place. So getting out there and networking with folks is going to be really your strongest thing. Um, and then as well as to finding who the reps and stuff are, look at your favorite artists. Look at the working professionals that you are inspired by. Look at their IMDb or their LinkedIn or their Instagram and see who are they repped by. And then you can go and like research that company. So I know that we direct all of our clients to put on their website, contact page, on their Instagram, and on their IMDb to list us as their rep. Because we want people coming to us rather than going straight to them. That's kind of our job. But what that means for you is that it's really easy to figure out who is repped by who and then do your research into who those people are and if that's might be a potential good fit for you.
Great. We have an anonymous attendee who asked, how do you know when you're ready for a manager? Sam, I know you mentioned really waiting until you've gathered enough experience, but would you be able to elaborate on that a little bit more? Like, what is enough experience per se?
So when working with management, it's really when you're ready to like we mentioned before, go into those leadership positions. You want to be a director, you want to pitch, you want to be the person who's like calling the shots, right? And so if you think about it in that way, remove it from like who you are and think more about what the position is. You are, let's say you want to be a showrunner for TV. You have an idea, you want to pitch it, and then you want to be the showrunner of this cool animated TV show that you came up with. That means you are in charge of the writing department, the story department, the art department, the animation department, the production department, editorial, post, all of those things. You are in charge. You are the person that is answering all of the questions and telling these people what they should be doing. So, are you ready to take on that responsibility? It's not just about, I have a really cool idea. It's about, can you lead a full team of working professionals in order to execute on that idea? And if you're someone who has only had one job in the industry, then realistically, that answer is most likely no. But if you're someone who has worked at a couple different studios on a couple different projects, you have a better understanding of how things work, and you might be ready to kind of step into those higher leadership roles. Um, Allison, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's about, I mean, adding and echoing, I suppose. It's just, I look for somebody who, like, we can be additive, like an accent to, that we're not there as like a safety net, I guess, or a transaction. I don't want to be transactional. I really want to be a business partner. So like if you are entrepreneurial and you're like about to start a business and you're building out your team and you only have a few roles and a little bit of money to spend, what is the best use of your money? You know, like at the end of the day, we're 10%, whether you find the job or we find the job. So knowing what you want to get out of that 10% is really important. because it doesn't feel good to me to sit idle and just take money. Like that is not why I'm here. And I will like remove myself as a manager from somebody if I feel like that's where the relationship's going, because I don't want that job. I really want to be a partner. Like that's truly what fills my bucket. I really want to help people and get them to where they want to be and help them develop their pitches. But if they keep me at arm's length, then it's just it's not as interesting. It's not the partnership I'm looking for personally. Now, there are lazy managers out there that will be happy to take your 10% and be transactional. And Sam's not one of them.
All right. We have another question from Romney who asks, what about digital native creators? If I make something that goes viral on YouTube or TikTok, when do you need a rep?
I would say,
have you had
now.
any clients that fall into that wheelhouse?
Yeah, we have a bunch. We have a bunch of kind of indie animators, I would say, in that space. And they actually just have very large presence online for all the content creation that they're making. So if you're kind of like, I guess, the Mr. Beast of animation, the sooner the better than to get somebody. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I agree. Because once you go viral, you're going to be getting producers, studios, buyers, distributors interested in your project. And if you don't have representation, it's going to be really hard to kind of navigate those opportunities. So once you've got like a big following, you're building your own IP, then it's a really good idea to seek representation. We actually have a client right now named Pearl Lowe with a project called Wheels and Roses that they are producing independently, and we've been working with them for like a year and a half now, I would say. And we just started a huge social media campaign yesterday that is leading up to us dropping a proof of concept based off of Wheels and Roses that will be coming soon. So stay tuned. Uh, and all of that is strategy that we've been working on behind the scenes for months in order to capture that momentum, build up the IP, build up the community behind it, and get those numbers so that we can then take it to funders and distributors and get an entire series made. So that would be something that would be really hard to navigate had Pearl not engaged with us to come on to the team. And try and do by themselves.
Very awesome. I think that leads perfectly into this next question from Rupeshi, who asks, what's a typical workday like for each of you? I imagine it varies a lot. Can you go into more of that, like strategizing that you're kind of doing behind the scenes to help each one of your clients?
Sure. And I think it also dovetails into Robin's. It says, will you critique portfolios? And so yes, so there is a lot of brand management of looking at portfolios. I think we just helped one of our clients with their website the other day. We helped them create brand decks. We look at portfolios. We look at, what are their goals? What studios do they want to aim for? What connections? So I always talk about it like our animation clients in two buckets. One is a bucket of who are their already existing connections, and how do we help continue building on those connections as a unit. And then there's the second bucket of brand new connections, which takes a lot longer to kind of break in. And so how do we get that going and open up their network? So one is expanding out network. The other one is strategizing on like what type of project they should go out and pitch with. A lot of our clients are wanting to pitch. So they'll send us log lines, we'll review them, we'll figure out which one they should focus on. While we don't believe in chasing trends, we do believe in being a protector of your energy, just because the industry is so crazy. It's like you don't want to go down too far on a project or an IP or idea, and it's so far off the mark of what the industry is looking for. So we kind of strategize on that end. We help something Sam did, and she can talk about it, but like build pitch decks, do practice pitches. We also produce. So yeah, every day is different. Sam, anything to add?
Yeah, I think the thing I would add is that we work somewhat reactively when it comes to interfacing with our clients. So I'm gonna take your lead. You're gonna come to me and say, hey, here's a script that I wrote. Can you give me feedback? And I'll say, great. When you want your feedback, do you want it in writing? Do you want to just talk about it? Do you want to talk about it and then I give you the notes in writing? Do you want the notes in writing and then we talk about it? I want to chameleon myself into what works best for you. Because like Allison mentioned before, our jobs are additive. We're supposed to be making your lives easier. And so it's important for us to kind of do that. So a typical day is going to be us taking meetings with clients and getting updates. It's going to be us meeting with studio execs, recruiters, and figuring out what they're looking for, what's new for them. It's going to be talking to potential clients, um, all different kinds of things. We're ostensibly professional networkers. Like it's our job to just talk to people and know what's going on in the community. And so that's what we're doing all day, every day.
That's great. All right, we have another attendee who asks, how do you feel about AI and animation? Are platforms buying AI created animation?
No, no, they're not. But there is an interest in utilizing AI in animated work, using it as a tool. But there are copyright issues with like general open AI that is scraping anything out in the world and using that. Um, there are issues, and some of the major studios are in a lawsuit about that, like right now. And so if you come to them and you're like, here's my pitch deck that's made completely out of AI art, that's gonna probably raise some question marks. But if you find a way to utilize AI in your workflow as a tool, as a shortcut, as a place to help you, that is the future. That's where things are likely going to be going. There's a studio that we work with sometimes called Asteria that is pioneering a AI filled um, production pipeline where they have different AI-driven tools to help with different pieces of the pipeline, but instead of being open, it is a closed circuit. So the AI is being fed by the artists who are working on that project and teaching it, this is what we want. And then once the AI model has been trained, it can then, help extrapolate from there. So yeah, it's a difficult subject because it's both scary and threatening, but it's also the future. And so we have to find a way to claim that narrative and to make it work for us rather than allowing it to replace us. Allison?
Totally support all your words.
Thanks for that insider insight. We have one last question for today, and that's someone who asked, do you have to be in LA or New York to have a career in animation? And Allison, it looks like you wanted to answer this one particularly.
No, you don't. And as a matter of fact, we have clients all around the world. We have Middle East, we have North, South America, we have Australia, Japan,
I think
Korea,
the only continents that we don't have clients in right now are Antarctica and Africa.
oh, we have Africa.
We have Africa, so then just
Mhm.
Antarctica. The
Yeah,
only
we don't have
continent we don't
Antarctica.
have somebody.
But that can be a
Amazing.
goal. That can be a goal.
Let's sign a penguin.
Sign a penguin.
Love that. Well, we're right at time. I don't want to take any more of your time today, but thank you so much, Sam and Allison, for giving us this thorough interview on talent management, on what it's like to have representation in animation. It was such a delight to have you both today to talk about your careers and what you do every day. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Our next session will be in 2 weeks, all about project management as it relates to entertainment careers. So if you're interested in a career in that, definitely make sure to register for that session. And with that, thank you so much again, Sam and Allison. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you for having us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, all.